Hello, dear Starshines. Christina here with Rise of the Multidimensional Human and Lightbody Academy. Welcome to today's Lunchtime Chats. So happy to be here with you guys. For those of you who are new, my name is Christina. I am the Acceleration Expert, and we are here to talk about topics and issues that are relevant for wayshowers, starseeds, healers, and other people on the path to their multidimensional awakening and sovereignty. So I'll go ahead and chill out for a minute and wait for folks to join us. I see the dear Soul Schooling Group is here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I have my phone here so I can read off the topics for today. So I'm just going to chill and wait for y'all. Hello, darling Joanne. Welcome, welcome. We have some interesting things to be talking about today. How are all you guys doing out there? Hey, Louise. Hey, darling. Good morning, Facebook user. I only can see Facebook user, not your name. If you're in the Rise of the Multidimensional Human group and you're watching this, just above the video, there's a link in the text part of the post that you can click on, and then that will give StreamYard permission to read your profile name so I can see it. Hello, darling. Hello, Happy New Year. Hello, hello. Oh, is that Barbara Jean? Welcome, welcome, darling. Good to see you. All right, darling. So good to see the Starshines coming on board. We have some cool things to talk about today, don't we? So as I get going, I definitely want to hear from you guys, your perspectives, or perhaps some questions or inquiries you have about some of the pieces that I'm talking about today, and put them in the comments, and I'll be sure to pause myself intermittently in our broadcast here to make sure I get to those comments and questions. All right, so let's get a rolling. Hello, darling, darling. Hello, hello, hello. All right, so our topics for today are 2021, pull up your bootstraps. The ride is far from over. I want to talk about that. It feels like, we all have a sense that we're in the middle of something, like just smack dab in the middle of it, but I want to talk a little bit more about that. And then I also want to talk about, it's time for us to master those reversals or remain trapped by them. So I need to probably describe a little bit more about what do I mean about reversal realities, inverted realities, and stuff like that, and how we can step out of the trap. And then I wanted to put this out here because I know this is something that all of us have tuned into and vibe with, but I want to add some more perspective into it. And that is the wisdom of as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. Lovely prayer closure there. Now, if you guys those of you who've been on the path for many years, even decades, you probably know this particular saying, and I want to go into that because this is the big piece that a lot of folks in the New Age movement know about, but perhaps don't bring it to a deeper level of where the empowerment is with that. So I'm going to talk about that as well. Welcome, everybody. So glad to have y'all. So glad to have you. Look at that. So hello. All right. Hello, Karen. Good to see you, darling. It's been a long time. I just noticed your name up here. Hey, girl, it's been a long time. How are you? I'm glad to see you. All right, so this is New Year's Eve. This is the last day of 2020, the artificially constructed reality timeline of 2020, and then going into 2021. So there's been a lot of talk about timelines. And there's been a lot of talk about, time manipulation and stuff like this, and perhaps maybe ways that humans get hijacked into timelines and all that. And it feels like there's a lot about this and that humans have yet to wake up to. But you guys in this group totally are probably vibing with that perspective. And though it's the new year of an artificial time system. Okay, so don't put too much stock into it because we are moving away from constructed realities and going towards organic realities, let's call it, the nature, the realities of our true nature. Okay. And so just an example of artificial, or let's say constructed realities, is our time. We have organic time, which is in the fourth dimensional level, like that, like what Einstein theorized about. It's a subjective linear movement, and there is a beginning, a middle, and an end towards two things. So there's that kind of time, but then we have like the time on the clock, which is not relative. Okay, no matter 60 minutes is 60 minutes, no matter where you are on the planet or how far away you are from that clock or the events. And so the clock that we know is an artificial time, or a time construct overlaid on top of organic natural time. And the organic natural time is what Einstein was talking about when he was talking about the fourth dimension. Okay, so we have lots of constructed ways to measure time, to move through reality that humanity is waking up out of. So there's this moment right here, this is marking the moment of a constructed reality, constructed timeline. And many of us have already felt the shift into the new year when we hit the solstice point. And that would be in the ancient way. That's really the beginning of the new year, is when you have the longest night, and then from that longest night, the new dawn arises. So and that doesn't work for constructed reality, because in the northern hemisphere, you have winter solstice, and in the southern hemisphere, you have the summer solstice. So half of the planet is experiencing the longest night of the year, and the other half of the planet is experiencing the longest day. So there's a lot of metaphor going on with that, but this is a way where we can't keep time like this on a global way, in a global level, or we can, but it doesn't suit the constructs, because we need to have everybody on the same page in order for everybody to be following the same timeline and narrative, stuff like this. So once you step out of the constructed time and you go into organic time, reality, the 3D reality as we understand it, changes a lot. It becomes much more magical, much more pliable, much more flexible, let's say. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is a day, important and not at the same time. All right, darlings, let's go ahead and dive into the activation aspect so we can go deeper into these pieces. All right, so yeah, you guys like my new board? It's big, huh? All right, is this a good? Yes. All right, I grabbed a good marker on the first shot. Excellent. All right, so this axis right here, this is the intent of your being, okay? When I say intent of your being, I'm talking about the essence of who you are, that's bigger than the galaxy, but is still manifesting within it. So the intent of who you are, and coming through these different realities and separating from itself in order to have an experience, okay? So this is the intent. And then for here in a biosuit on this planet, what anchored your intention and your beingness here is your agreement with the Pachamama, with the soul essence of the being of this earth. Okay. She and you connected in some way, in some dimensional level, cosmic level. She put out a call, you heard it, and you said yes. And that yes that you two have made together is the foundation fabric of the reality that you're walking. It's the foundation fabric of the great dream that you're submerged in. Okay. So everything that arises in your incarnational experiences, plural on this planet anyway, is based on that core fabric dream of your yes and her yes coming together. Okay. So from that yes arises all of this other beautiful levels to our awareness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See, I did it again. Is this off camera? No, it's not. Good. And for those of you who really dig this model that I'm talking about right here, this model was brought forward to humanity by a Cherokee record keeper by the name of Barbara Hand Clow. She's wrote many, many, many books. She's a brilliant visionary, but also a very grounded teacher and very intelligent woman. She's written many, many books in astrology, and there's so many things. This particular model was actually just 2 books that she wrote. And really what happened was she woke up to an aspect of herself that existed on a planet in the Pleiades. And she talks about this way later in life, that, this was really a product of her training with her Cherokee grandfather, because he trained her in such a way for her perceptions not to get shut down, for her to stay open to her multidimensional aspects of who she is. And later on in adulthood, that connection between her on this planet and her on this other planet, another star system, woke up. And with it came a massive download. And this model here was a part of that download. But the energy of the download, the energy of this truth was so, let's say, contradictive to the human belief system and the collective energy of the planet. She couldn't just channel it, write it all down and here you are, let's have this great book. It wasn't like that at all. It took a lot of integration, a lot of ceremony, a lot of working with groups around the world to be able to open enough of the collective for this energy to come forward and her to flush it out. So it took many years. And I discovered her, let's see, in 94. No, I discovered her in 98. And I began working with her because so around 99, 2000, she started doing these weekend retreats in Lilydale, New York, which, if you're a psychic medium, maybe you perhaps know about this community. It's a community that has been around since the Victorian era, and it is a closed community, and only psychic intuitives are allowed to reside there. And so every summer, we would go there in August as a birthday present for me. I would take a trip out there and spend 3 days with the group, with her and the group, working with this particular model. And it took a lot of work because the density, it was completely different kind of consciousness on a collective level than what we have going on now. What we have going on now, guys, I mean, there is so much available to us that was not available to us, years ago. So when she would first start introducing this model and talking about the energies, and then later on we would do a ceremony to work through these energies, people, their interferences on the collective level, and who they are, would actually rise up so powerfully that people would fall out of their chairs, passing out, because this information, this truth, let's call it, was so strongly hitting up against that resistance, So those blind spots that I talk about often in our talks, those are a very real thing, and they have a huge impact on our very being. Okay, they have a huge impact on our very being. And when, so much so where we can be looking right at something and not see it because of those blind spots. Those blind spots are the ideas of who we think we are, our ideas of what a human is, our ideas about God, our ideas about our family, about, there's all these layers to it, right? So we went there to Lilydale every year for about a decade. And by time I'd say about 6 or 7 years into working with groups like that, Barbara finally was able to distill this information into one book and where she broke down the 9 dimensions in a very detailed way. So in the beginning, there was a book called The Pleiadian Agenda, which is very influential to many people of my generation. And then within that book was a single chapter about the lenses of the 9 dimensions. And then, of course, it grew from there. So this awakening that she did was really a huge surge. Here we are. Was I on mute that entire time? I hope not. Please let me know how that is, guys. Please let me know. Oh boy, I hope that wasn't on mute the whole time. Oh, jeez. That's my bad if that's the case. Hello, hello. Okay. So long story short, I'm just going to sum it up. I'm back. Oh, okay. So the sound did go out and I just didn't notice it. Okay. So let me talk about this. Let me go back and repeat what I said here. Oh, only for about 10 seconds or so. Okay. Thank you, Alana. I appreciate that. All right. So then I won't reverse all the way back. I'll just come to conclusion of, if you want to find out more about this model, there is a resource, a good sized resource available on her website about this model. It's HandCloud 2012. And there's videos, there's DVDs, there's all sorts of resources, not only to work with these dimensions yourself, but also to facilitate your own activations. And this was something that was really beautiful about this work, was that no one can own it. And this is part of what I want to talk about here with the as above, so below kind of thing. No one can own these teachings because it is of the new paradigm. And the new paradigm has completely different rules than how it was in the days past. Okay. So in the new paradigm, open source code is how everything is. No one can have the monopoly on the truth. The truth cannot be hijacked and hidden anymore. And I'll talk more later why that's so. So coming back to your yes with the Pachamama, and your agenda, her agenda on those levels come together. And that is the baseline fabric of the dream that you're completely submerged in. So that means all manufactured realities still have the foundation of your initial yes to be here on this planet. Okay. All right, and then as we come forward or rise up even further past beyond the yes of being here, we are gifted an amazing biosuit. And this biosuit is comprised of atoms and molecules. And those atoms and molecules come together to create cells, and cells come together to create tissues, and tissues come together to create organs, organs come together to create systems, okay? This is the wisdom of the telluric realm, and this is the 2D. The telluric realm, see, a lot of people think that just because something is dense, that it might be negative or heavy or wrong or something like this, and this is not the case at all, especially in this kind of model. The telluric realm is our foundation, okay? So we have the baseline dream, and then we have, from that baseline dream, a foundation that is meant to create space for us, okay? So our biosuit is this very intricate designed vessel. Okay, there's many systems within systems within systems that make up this suit. There are trillions of cells within this suit, and these cells do all sorts of things. They resonate and communicate with each other. And it's not different when you go underneath the core of the earth. Oh, I'm sorry, not the core, the crest of the earth. When you get below the crest of the earth, there's all these systems and different collections of rock and water, and there's all these realms within realms within realms below the crust of the earth. So everything below the crust is also considered the telluric realm. And in the telluric realm of the Pachamama, you have inner earth, you have subterranean tunnels, you have the underworlds that many shamanic teachings teach about. Okay, there's stories of a sun within the sun, or within the core of our earth, or within the earth. You know what I mean? There's these vast cities, there's crystal cities, there's underground lakes and rivers and oceans, and so there's many realities within our planet that's under the crust. And that is not so different than how our biosuits are as well. Our biosuits are capable of housing many different realities, many different realities. So the telluric realm is extremely rich and diverse, and it's the foundation that gives us a sense of space, and that space is our 3D. Okay, so me being in my biosuit, I'm contained in my biosuit, and when I look across the room, there's a sense of separation. The atoms and molecules that have come together to create the door in front of me feels like it's separate from me. Okay. It's separate from me because I have this biosuit. If I were to just keel over and leave this biosuit, I would instantly feel one with all of this. We would be one. Okay. Now, those of you who are death doulas or maybe, help people cross over or have been with a loved one when they pass, you'll notice that, upon that last breath, that death rattle, okay, the life force leaves the body, then all of a sudden it feels like the whole room becomes infused, and the air becomes really thick. Okay, this is because now the essence, the spirit that was inside of the body is now no longer within the body, and it's in a more expanded state out here. Now, of course, it really depends on the circumstances and the belief systems and stuff of the person who has passed and the people who are present. There's a lot of dynamics there. Okay, so sometimes people pass when they're really drugged and they don't even know that they died. So it takes them a second to realize. So when that kind of thing happens, their belief system, their 4D constructs stay intact because they don't know, that they passed. Okay, so that's a whole nother chat. We'll talk about that another time. But for right now, just recognize that this 2D reality that we have going on is the facilitator for our 3D space that we experience, okay? And what happens when we experience this space? We fill it with thoughts, we fill it with our energy, we fill it with our emotions, okay? All this space gets filled in certain ways on different levels. And the parts of us that actually fills and imbues this space as if it were an ocean of energy, that's the 4D. That's the part of us that is plugged in, fully plugged in to the 4D. Okay. Now you have the 4D and then you have collective conscious. Now the collective conscious is within the 4D, but that's not all what the 4D is. The fourth dimension is pretty much the invisible world of thoughts and emotions and spirit and all this kind of thing, these sorts of things. Now we have consciousness grids on this planet influencing our here and now, okay? And many of those are manufactured. They're constructed. It's not organic. It's not natural, okay? So this 4D field, there's like infinite potential, let's say, of ways to create and fill the ocean of what that is. So no matter what, no matter how guarded or no matter how shielded or whatever protections you think you have, you're still in the ocean. You're still completely surrounded in all directions by this 4D field. And the more in the old paradigm, it was necessary to have a lot of protections and shields and stuff like this because there was a lot of really crazy, dark, heavy stuff that was in the 4D field. Like I was saying in the beginning, when we would do those workshops with Barbara, and she would bring this model forward and people were passing out of their chairs because of their interferences. Okay. So today it's not like that. It's a lot more, it's a lot cleaner than it has been in a very long time. And I'll come back to this 4D field and go further into it because, well, there's a lot to say. All right, so just know 4D field, it's the ocean that's all around us. It's thought forms, it's belief systems, it's consciousness grids, all kinds of stuff like that. And then we have our 5D. Now, the people who talk about the ascension narrative will often talk about humans ascending into the fifth dimension. Okay. Now, when I was younger in the early 90s and was learning about the paradigm shift and the idea of ascension, many of us were trying to imagine what that would be like. And we imagined that we would no longer have physical bodies anymore. Many of us did that. Right. But as we are in it now, I'm realizing though it has nothing to do with leaving the body. It has everything to do of bringing more into the body. Okay. So what I mean by that is that the dumbing down of humanity that has happened over the several 100,000 years, what that DNA dance change was doing was limiting the bandwidth of our essence that could be expressed through our being. Okay. So, and how the energy is right now is that there's more of us avail. Our DNA dance is shifting naturally. Okay. You don't have to do anything necessarily, just shifting naturally. And as it shifts, there's more bandwidth of who we truly are inside that can be expressed now. This is why many people, especially multidimensionals, no longer refer to the higher self as the higher self, because it doesn't feel right. The higher self can now be housed by the DNA dance that that is their body's biosuit, which quickly changes the language from higher self to inner self. Okay, this is why we started to gravitate away from that language. Now we still use it because sometimes we're trying to describe something and we don't have, that's the best English word that we have to describe it, right? So there's a language barrier here when we're trying to describe these things and share about them. So there's lots of times it might feel, if you're listening with your head, it's going to feel or seem contradictory. But when you're listening with your spirit and your heart space, that, you know, the understanding gets conveyed. Okay. So 5D is our Akasha. Okay. It's the perception of our soul's journey. Okay. It's the perception and records and constructs of those past experiences, alternate reality experiences that our soul has been on up into the here and now. Now, our here and now is affected by the 5D field, in a huge way. So those of you who do Akashic record work, you know about this. You can actually change the quality and even the kinds of experience a person has in the here and now by going into the Akasha and unraveling entanglements. Okay, those entanglements could be constructs, it could be vows, it could be past traumas, it could be, you know, lots of things that pull life force away from the here and now. And once you dissolve those constructs, the quantum of that person that was involved in those levels of being, right, in that entangled in that way, now are freed up and can be brought back to that person, to the here and now. And now they have even more quantum, you know, they're see if I can say this, they are able to embody even more of their quantum. Okay. And that changes the quality of their here now experience. It changes the, you know, maybe if you're still in the, you know, vibing with the idea of karma, you know, it changes the kind of karma they're walking, right? And the other thing about the 5D, this is no longer that linear kind of time that Einstein theorized about. You are now in cyclical time once you go into the 5D field with your awareness. Yeah. So even if you're not aware of these levels, they're still influencing you in the here and now. 6D, this is our light body. This is the literal blueprint, divine blueprint, some people call it, of how your consciousness is unfolding through the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, so all the ways that you're going to exist in this biosuit, all the potentials, all of the timelines, all this stuff, this is all contained within the 6D. The 6D isn't limited to your human lives, though. It's also your consciousness, your journey, the journey of your soul essence through the Milky Way galaxy. So everything is mapped out here. And by switching things around in this map, you change things through the other parts of the ladder. So, you know, we go in and say we go into the Akasha and we dissolve this contract and that vow and this promise and that trauma. Okay. And maybe that took like, you know, an hour to go to all those places and unravel them. You can do all of that in just a few minutes if you can get connected into the part of the blueprint that created that timeline in the first place. Okay. All right. So that's really potent to be working with the light body on this level. And, but, you know, not everybody can allow that to be accessed because of certain densities that are happening over here, belief systems, consciousness grids, stuff like this. But more and more and more people are able to reach this and work with it. All right, now what is the precursor to the blueprint, to the map? That is the sound, the tone of your soul, the tone of your very being upon separation from source. Okay, the 7D, also known as the galactic highways of light. I call them the stellar networks. It is also the tone, the sound, the frequency of your very being. So as you emerged out of the all that is consciousness, you emerged as a frequency. And that frequency was an intent. Okay, that frequency was a thought that is the intent. Okay. And what comes before that? The all that is. The all that is. I love that a lot of people are waking up to this. The people that the I am teachings, right? Stuff like this. This is the all that is lens. This lens is on our crown. Oh, by the way, all of these levels of our being, all these dimensions of our being are in our body. It's a physical attribute to this biosuit. Okay, so aware or not, they're there and functioning because all of these dimensions are nesting dolls that are contributing to the quality and the experiences of your here and now moment. Okay, so this isn't stuff that's, way out there in the galaxy or whatever. This is all hardwired right here. Okay, and then we have this is all right. So the 8D, the all that is, we might call this God maybe. And then before comes the precursor before this is the Madre de Dios, the Mother of God, and this is the center of the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, the center of the Milky Way galaxy is also the Great Rainbow Bridge. This is the bridge that souls come to our galaxy through, beings come. So you already have an existence before you come to the galaxy, and then you come across that bridge and instantly blend and become one with the all that is presence. When you're in the all that is presence, there is a thought that emerges out of that, and that is your intent for being. Your intent for being is a frequency that creates the map of how you're going to express that intent and how you're going to move through that intent. And that intent comes down even further and creates the perception of multiple lives, soul's journey kind of experiences. And then there's a library here that collects all that knowledge and records. And then you keep going down the ladder. Then you start to experience who you think you are. Then you experience the 3D. You see how this goes. So this model right here, I can spout out to you guys in just a few minutes. That is how liberated humanity has become from even just 10 years ago. Okay, you're still conscious. You might be a little triggered or distracted, but you're still here, right? You're still with me. So I'm telling you this so you guys don't get discouraged, because there's a lot of intense chaos happening right now on this planet, but yet we are liberated beyond anything that we've been in the past. Okay, now I'm going to pause right here and I'm going to check in with thoughts and questions and stuff like this, and go from there. I'll dive back into these questions. So I'm scrolling up. Hello, darlings. We heard you. It was just a second. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Scrolled up too high. Okay, it was short. No worries. Oh, thank you, darling. All right, Palladian. Yes. Thank you, Joanne. All right. So did she say what topics were being covered today? Yes, I did. And I will repeat them in case you missed it. So the topics are 2021, pull up your bootstraps, because it's going to be the Fars ride. The Fars ride. That's my dyslexia kicking in there. The ride is far from over. That's what I meant to say. And then I'm going to be talking about master the reversals or remain trapped by them. So I want to talk more about the reversals, because this is flushing out really clearly for the collective. And it's so massive to your liberation, your personal liberation of who you are and how the life you want to live, right? And then as above, so below, as within, so without, as universe, so the soul. All right, darlings. All right. Hello. Happy New Year. This is Tony. Then we have Christina saying howdy. Hello, darling. Hi, lovely lady. Finally awake for the lunch. I know she is way down under. Okay. All right. No questions or thoughts so far. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead, dive into all right. So I talked about in the beginning about constructed timelines versus organic timelines. All right. And, I've talked before and also in other chats about the ways in which our experiences get influenced. So we take actions in such a way that continue us on that constructed timeline versus the organic natural timelines. Okay. The natural timelines, and here, let me move this over so I can, the natural timelines is very malleable, fluid, and, there's a lot of, there's a lot of freedom with it because we are the ones who are surfing the wave of that timeline. All right. We are the ones that are doing that. Us and our direct connection with our yes for the reason why we're here in the first place. Okay. And what's happened is that there's all these overlays on top of our experiences that have been placed here that actually give us experiences that are exact opposite of what our intent is. Okay. And that is the core wound right there for a lot of humans, is the forsakenness, feeling forsaken by God. You had a yes, you had an agreement here with the Pachamama. That is the foundation fabric to the great dream that you're submerged in. And then, this agenda came along several 100,000 years ago and started, limiting the bandwidth of our expression. And in doing so, the first thing that has to happen is that we need to get disconnected from being a child of the universe, disconnected from that all-encompassing embrace of the mother. Okay, so reversals is the big way of the most effective way I've seen so far, now that I've woken up to it, for really influencing humanity and narrowing their bandwidth of what they can, what the biosuit can express. So reversals are taking the intent and then putting the exact opposite forward. Okay. Now we understand the kind of chaos. Well, it's pretty easy to understand the kind of chaos this creates when you look at news headlines, right? And I'm going to use that narrative of the let's say the Hillary Clinton narrative, right? Oh, she's like this dark evil being that's a baby eater. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen articles like that is a narrative about her that has been building over years. Okay. Now this year, especially, it's become really huge, and once it became really huge, there was an agenda also put out where they were saying the exact opposite, that it was all an artful sabotage. It's all a psyop. It's all this, it's all that. You see what I mean? And when you put a person who buys into the narrative as it was in the beginning about her being the abuser, and then you put them in the same room with a person that really buys into the narrative of her being a victim, can these two people exist in the same room without conflict? No, they cannot. If you bring up the issue, it's instant. Who's right? Who's wrong at that point? Right? So I'm going to draw the 4D field here so you guys so we can start navigating and seeing those reversals, and also understand how to not be attached to them. Because whether you're attached to one narrative or the other, you're trapped. I know it's very frustrating, but it's because this is we are in a reality that is heavily constructed. Okay. We are all beautifully trained poodles and Labradors. Yeah. Humanity, beautifully trained poodles and Labradors. We are not wild animals that, we don't picture ourselves. Well, some of us do, but most don't imagine themselves as a part of nature, as a being that belongs here as a part of nature. Most of humanity, because of those reversals overlaid on top of each other for a long, long time, much of humanity views humanity as a cancer or a virus even, okay? Now, raise your hand if you feel like humanity is a cancer or a virus on the planet. Okay, but also raise your hand when you recognize that humans are supposed to be here and you have a yes with the Pachamama. She wanted you here, and you feel that your yes actually exists. Yes? Raise your hand when you got that, if you got that. Right. So this reversal thing is used against us because it's like we're told or we're made to believe if we think this or believe this and believe this, we can't do that. We're lying to ourselves or we're tricking ourselves or anything like this. But really, that program is in place because if you can see both sides as being true, then you're no longer trapped by that construct. Okay, that's the way you get out of it. So this 4D field is like a canopy. And all the higher levels of who you are, these are all aspects of you, cosmically, galactically. Okay, these are all aspects of you pouring into the here and now moment. But all these aspects of you pouring into the here and now moment, imbuing your biosuit and your reality, are passing through this canopy, are passing through this field. This field is polarity. This field is also duality. Okay, this field is good, bad, right, wrong. Better to do it this way. It's best to do it that way. Appropriate, not appropriate. Okay, all those games. That's the 4D field. Okay, and this is why a lot of channelers, maybe they're channeling archangels or whatever, and maybe you channel Archangel Michael, and then one day you wake up and you realize, oh, there's a feminine aspect to Archangel Michael. So now you channel Archangel Michael Michaela, right? Okay, that's because that frequency that you were channeling is getting polarized. As soon as it passes through this field, it's now good, bad, right or wrong, male, female, right, left, black, white. Okay, so when channelers wake up to this kind of thing, their bandwidth of what they can pull through and express expands. It's no longer limited to male or female, right or left, black or white, or divine and evil. Okay, so this is the thing when you are so deeply entrenched in a belief system that you absolutely know is right. Okay. And then find out, maybe in the moment before your death, and then find out that the whole thing is bullshit. That tragic and scathing realization makes an imprint in the Akasha, and it contributes into why you can't trust yourself anymore. Okay. And it's totally not, I mean, a lot of levels, it's not fair because through your conditioning throughout your life, you were given information and experiences that cultivated that belief, that used your own spirit, your own love to harness it into a system that is not of your own making. Okay. So remember, you are here to dream with the Pachamama. Your yes, right? Your yes comes together with the yeah, that of the Pachamama, and that is the core fabric of the dream that you are submerged in. Okay, you are meant to bring the bandwidth of who you are into that dream, and instead, what's happening is your bandwidth is influenced by who you think you are or how other people think you are, and that influences our presence and decisions, and that's what we unknowingly weave into the dream. We're no longer in charge. We're no longer expressing this. We're now being informed and then responding. We're being informed and responding. You see the difference? It's a very big difference, right? It's the difference between fate and destiny. Destiny is this. Fate is that. Okay. Now I've used that analogy of the jumbo jet. When you're traveling through your life on a jet airliner like this, you have limited, it's very comfortable. It's an easy ride. You get to have cocktails and have dinner and have hot rags as you travel through time, right? But you only can go this way or that way, up or down. The trajectory is still this arc, and you have to stay within that arc, or else you're not going to be able to stay on that jet airliner traveling through time. But for those waking up to their multidimensional self and their sovereignty, you are no longer on the jet airliner. You're no longer following the constructs. You're actually breaking down those constructs. And in doing so, you become in charge of your life like you're flying a helicopter. Movement with your feet, movement with your hands. You can go up, you can go down, you can go right, you can go left, you can go back, you can go forward. Okay. You are in charge in so many more ways of your trajectory because now you are flying from here. You are searching and connecting with your destiny, right? Why your soul has you here in the first place. That's what you're connecting to, and that's what's dominating your choices. Yeah. Okay, so in the trick of the reversal, it's like, hold on a second. Let me get back to. I totally skidded. Hold on. Okay. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit more about reversals here. So the other thing that happens with these reversals, it impacts the Akasha. Okay, because what happens is, or what happens now, it didn't used to be so, but now it is that when we leave our biosuits, we go into something called a life review. And in that life review, we have thoughts and come to conclusions about the life we led. Okay. And those thoughts, those conclusions become constructs within our Akashic field. Okay. So the reversals started off with just this ocean, but as it evolved over time, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, it began to impact the Akashic. And so these reversals are stuff that we need to work out, not just on a personal level of, the face you see in the mirror, but you need to work it out and do soul healing, like retrieving and uniting within, like this. And by time you get to unraveling the reversals in the Akasha, you are really cooking with some grease, because as it pulls out of the Akasha, your soul will wake up to it here. And now over time, as this integrates, you can actually recognize the reversal when it's in front of your face in the moment. And once that happens and you can see it in the moment and recognize it for what it is, you have become liberated from the 4D field. Okay. It's tricky though, because there's all these experiences we have in our Akasha. I mean, if you feel like you have a lot of lifetimes on this planet, right? There's a lot of opportunities for these constructs to get into your Akasha. So if you feel like you're brand new, actually, that's a great thing. You don't have as much going on in the Akasha in relationship to the dream of the mother that you're here to weave, right? So you're you got a leg up on that in that way. So the other thing that happens is that consciousness grids get anchored into this 4D field. Consciousness grids can be light, they could be dark, they can be both. They can be light, they can be dark, they can be specific to national identity, they can be specific to certain cultures and teachings and religions and stuff like this. There's lots of different kinds of consciousness grids that get anchored on the planet. And a lot of these 4D constructs that are left that haven't yet fallen in the 4D field, because you know how I'm saying it's lighter now than it has been 10 years ago, right? Though these are like the ones that are really deeply anchored in, and they are anchored in through inverted light geometry. Okay, so we have geometry, we have light geometry, but then you can take a shape and invert it. Actually, this is a great example. So you can take say like that triangle that we have going on, say this is a beautiful little light code from the cosmos. And then it comes to the 4D field, and then it can get instantly reversed, right? And then now you are experiencing the exact opposite of its original intent. Okay. Now these inverted encodements are used to anchor ideas and thought forms in the collective. All right. So ideas and thought forms that are anchored in the collective, what does that mean, and what's the advantage? That means, people are swimming through this ocean of energy. You are influenced by people's thoughts and emotions, whether you like it or not, you are. Empaths know this very well. I mean, we can be in a room with somebody and actually quite literally having the experience that someone else's emotional experience. Okay. So the same kind of thing happens with these consciousness grids when they get anchored, and then we walk into them. We'll walk into them, and then all of a sudden we feel very different about things. We feel completely, maybe we feel off, maybe we feel lit up. It all depends on our relationship with that energy. But there are consciousness grids that are anchored with that inverted light geometry, and this is the stuff that's getting lifted. There's light workers all over the world recoding those inverted geometries. And as they go from being inverted to being straight up again, that is impacting the entire collective. Whether the collective is on a spiritual path or not, it does not matter. They're breathing the same air. They are walking through the same ocean. Therefore, they are impacted. Interconnectedness is something that is a deep, ingrained aspect to our experience. We cannot be separated at all. We will have the experience of feeling like we're separated, but ultimately we are so woven together because we are all in the same fabric of that dream. We are all submerged within the same dream of the mother. Atoms and molecules that are, say, air that is breathed in by a whale, yesterday on the other side of the globe, we could be breathing in today. That's how interconnected we are through the telluric realm. Okay, that's a real thing. Look it up. There's some really cool TED Talks of scientists talking about that how these atoms and molecules travel around the globe within just a few hours. It's amazing. So, the atoms and molecules that make up your body, they actually, your cells, all of the cells of your body get renewed every 7 years. That's trillions of cells get renewed every year. And what informs those cells and how they're going to get replicated? All right. It's your thoughts, feelings, emotions, beliefs. It's your agenda on a essence level of your light body. Yeah. Okay. So you can, what the ancients realized is that you can change these. And when you do that, the new body that gets recreated can be completely different than what you were before. This is that gives rise to the whole idea that you can grow an entirely new body, which you can. All right, and there's actually initiations that you can receive that allow you to grow a new body. It's an encodement that can be transmitted to you, and it's all right. So it's not like you just get the encodement and it's a magic pill. No. You need to put work into growing. You need to put work into growing and nurturing those seeds so it'll grow in the garden of your being. So it's not a quick fix, but it's definitely something that's available to humanity. All right. I'm going to pause right here and say hello. Okay, not much is happening here. All right, Tim is listening with me. Christina, he says hi. Hi, Tim. Good to see you. Or, well, good to know you're around. The great paradox that requires both and awareness versus either or thinking. Yes, that's exactly right. Polarity thinking is the bane of humanity's imprisonment. All right, this is such a powerful presentation. All right, thanks, Joanne. All right, so if there's any thoughts, any questions, please put them in there. All right, so this reversal thing, this is a rabbit hole. It goes very, very deep. But one of the things I want to mention here is that the reversals, when we first start experiencing them, they're kind of shocking, all right? Because it's like you'll have one way of thinking when you go to bed. And then when you wake up the next day, you feel completely different and, in fact, opposite of how you felt before about something, okay? Now, if you're a rigid person or a fixed kind of person, that's not going to help you. You're going to, it's going to elicit feelings of confusion, of anxiety, of, feeling like, oh my gosh, I thought I had a clue, but I have no clue, that kind of experience. And the only reason why that's so uncomfortable is because of the training that we've had, the conditioning that we've had through many generations. So cleaning up your ancestry, cleaning up these pieces is really useful so you can have that kind of experience. And instead of it being something that terrifies you or creates anxiety or makes you feel lost, it's an experience that liberates you. It's a realization that brings you to another level of freedom within yourself in relationship to something. Now, the Kero talk about this too. They call it the Pachacuti, and they in their teachings, it's like every 500 years or so, there is a great reversal that happens on this planet. And in the great reversal, it's a reversal that happens to the entire collective. It's not just a personal reversal, it's a collective reversal. It's called the Pachacuti, the turning of the world, okay? And the last Pachacuti that occurred was during the time of the conquistadors, when the conquistadors were coming over to South and North and North, Central, and South America, and were conquering the civilizations there. So what happened were the ones who were of divine multidimensional radiance, that were, the humans that had DNA that expressed their true radiance. They were venerated. They were, that was a something that was truly honored and respected. And those beings were the ones targeted. So they instantly went from being benevolent and perceived as good for the world into the bottoms of society. They had to go into hiding. They had to disappear out of society. And those that were fed by greed and lust and thirst for power, they rose to the top of the food chain of society. Okay, so that was how that they explained the Pachacuti experience. Now, right now, in the times that we are in, this is the foretold next Pachacuti. So all those value systems of greed, of power, of survival of the fittest, all that stuff, this is what has been dominant, especially in Western culture, right? And now with this Pachacuti, that is no longer going to be dominant anymore. It's going to be the true virtues of humanity that become venerated and become valued again. Okay, so. And this takes me to the rest of that topic about as above, so below. This is what people need to really let sink in and integrate within their being. Everything that happens in our solar ring impacts us. Yeah, everything that happens. Mercury goes retrograde. People start, experiencing some stuff. Those that don't have a good relationship with that retrograde energy. Mars goes retrograde. People feel a little bit stifled and not as passionate and driven. Okay, that's because the energy, the consciousness of that being is in retrograde, is going backwards in relationship to us on this planet. So this isn't a new thought, but what I want to weave in here is that the changes that are happening in the Akashic level in the solar ring level are already going on inside of here. Okay, so it's really what it is. It's a clearer mirror when you're looking at what's going on planetarily with the planets around the solar ring. It's a mirror for us to actually recognize the changes that are happening inside here. Okay, so when you are in the solar ring is something that's very particular to the to individual and then collective. But now people are recognizing our relationship in that solar ring to other stars in the galaxy, or even the galactic center or other galaxies. Okay, and when you start moving into connecting those dots, that means that we have opened inside to other aspects of who we are beyond the galaxy. We're opening as a collective inside to who we are in the cosmic arena of things. Yeah. So long ago in 1994, there was, Jupiter. Hold on a second. I started to tell my story backwards. So when you go coming back to the solar ring, so we have the solar ring and we have our planets within the solar ring. All of these beings are contributing to our experience, our consciousness and the unfoldment. And a lot of control systems that we have going on right now are actually anchored in, or were anchored into these other beings, like Jupiter, Saturn are two big ones, right? Pluto as well. So in 1994, there was a comet called the Shoemaker-Levy. It was originally discovered in 92, but in 94, what happened was it was struck by an object and it broke into pieces and it crashed into Jupiter. And that crash, Jupiter being the holder of, right, the big daddy, some I've heard a woman say it, and I think it's great, is the keeper of the occult. It's the keeper of the mystery school teachings. It's the keeper of the, the lineages and teachings of this planet that were meant to awaken a human, right? So the keepers of that knowledge that's directly related to the state of Jupiter were impacted by that Shoemaker-Levy hitting the planet. And it was no small blast. It was a massive, like millions of megatons blast that with the comet hitting Jupiter. Now, with this inside connection, external connection, when that happened, when that comet hit Jupiter like that, and it's forever scarred Jupiter actually, what has happened is now all of the energy that was once held and encapsulated within Jupiter is now exploded. Okay. And with that explosion, with that consciousness shift, all of the mystery school teachings of this planet became liberated. Okay, that means the mystery school teachings that were on this planet that were meant to awaken a human again, you know, to create a God man, like what they were doing in Egypt and stuff like this, that got spread to the wind. And that means that on this planet, the mystery school teachers, the lineage holders, had dreams. They heard that, and were compelled to express that. And what that did was it caused huge waves, because in most lineages, it was a big no-no to teach the mystery school teachings outside of the initiated. Only the initiated can be shared, can this wisdom be shared with, right? But once that explosion happened, that massive megaton 500 whatever megaton explosion happened on Jupiter, the energy, it couldn't hold that energy anymore. So that means that those teachings got opened for all that had the eyes to see and the ears to listen. Now that is a stark contrast to how it was before. So those lineage holders that felt and heard that message began to release their teachings, and it was not safe for them to release those teachings. Excuse me, not safe on the collective level, but not safe to other lineage holders of the same lineage. Huge rifts happened within tribes, huge rifts happened within cultures, because they did not want these teachings to be released to outsiders. And of course, I mean, there's trauma drama, there's all sorts of reasons why, right? And some of the forerunners, we'll say the way showers in the sharing of these teachings were the Quero of South America. And it was because in their prophecy, the whole reason why they went through the efforts to go into hiding so high up in the Andes, you know, was so they can maintain and when the time is right, liberate the encodements for awakening the new human. The Homo luminous, the next level of humanity where we're going, okay? So that was part of their prophecies, and that's why they stayed. That's why they, they stayed in hiding for so long. It wasn't until the 50s did they even come down the mountain, and I'm talking about I think it was 1950, came down the mountain and started interacting with outsiders. And then when the high level teachers were coming out and reaching out and teaching strangers, it was not well received. When I say strangers, I don't mean like anybody on the street. People were having dreams. They were pursuing their destiny like this and here. You know what? They were taking the handle of that helicopter and they met that teacher. They sought out and found that teacher. In the old school ways, that teacher would never give you the time of day because you were a Westerner or you weren't a part of the lineage. But then after this happened, that changed. And then they took in those new students and taught them. And those students that they took in all those years ago are many of our masters that are teaching today. Okay. So the opening of these teachings went against, like, quite literally the opposite of what the old paradigm required. The energy of the cosmos, the energy of the galactic was in such a way that even if you wanted to open these teachings to, I'm talking about in the old paradigm now, even if you wanted to open these teachings to people that weren't initiated, you couldn't. It just was not possible. It wasn't going to happen. But now that the energies out here are like this, that's an indication that the energies here are now like this as an open, right? And now it can happen. And this is why the transformation of humanity is absolutely unstoppable. We're seeing these changes in the astrology. We're seeing these changes, which means if it's happening right here as above, it has already happened right here, so below. Yeah? All right, I'm going to pause right there and check in with you guys. What you got going on? So many solar rings. Oh, how many solar rings are there, or layers and levels? Okay, so when I'm talking about the solar ring, I'm talking about our sun and the planets orbiting around the sun. And that's what I'm calling the solar ring. Okay. Thank you, Polly. Awesome. All right, dear soul. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Hold on. Haole Huna, Hawaiian term meaning turning over the world, the similarity in the indigenous knowing, the Pachacuti. Ah, yes, very interesting. Okay, so Joanne is referring to the kahuna, the kahuna wisdom teachings of Hawaii. Very tuned in people, and there's islands in Hawaii that are super hyperdimensional in our portals. There's many places. There's Bermuda. Bermuda is also a hyperdimensional place. So there's some shutting down that just could not happen because our baseline can't go away, or else we won't incarnate on this planet anymore. So there's some hyperdimensional places that can never be shut down, and the Bermuda Triangle is one of them. Now they can be like limited, but they can't be completely shut down. So Bermuda Triangle was limited, but now that's opening up again. I hear that Stargate is becoming full blown open. And then there's similar things with Hawaii as well. So there's been hyperdimensional places on this planet that just will never shut down and can never be, no matter what, what kind of timeline you're on. But what's interesting is that the malleability of reality that happens around those places, I think that is the part that really is cool, because because it's so malleable. We think that this is unbreakable. It can't, this is what it is, and it can't be anything else. When really everything that's around us can actually shift in a second. It can shimmer, and we can be in a totally different reality with simply changing our reference point inside of here. I can look over this way and start tuning into another kind of timeline reality. I can look into that way and start tuning into another kind of dimension, and that will start coming in, so what you focus on is what you're going to make bigger and come to you. So if you're focusing, coming back to timelines, if you're focusing on, the strife and the anger and all this stuff, not that you need to be aware of what's happening, of course, and be present. But if you're focusing and investing energy in this, this is your own way of contributing to certain kinds of keeping it going in your awareness, keeping it going in your reality, and it's a fine line. It's a very fine line, because you need to be present and be aware of what's happening. But how do you be in the world without being a product of it? That's the big question. And that answer is different for everybody, depending on how you're engaging in your reality and why you're here, what your yes is with the Pachamama. And, depending on what eras you came in to incarnate here, that's going to influence the flavor of your yes. Some beings have been here for eons of time, long before the invaders came, long before the human DNA came. Okay. Those of us who have that kind of yes have a very different purpose here. We have a very different baseline that we're weaving with the Pachamama versus others that maybe came here during destruction of Meldeck or something like that, or came here as soul groups that were enslaved. Now those have a different kind of yes going on with the Pachamama, right? So it's important to tune into what that yes is, what it's about. And just because you may have came here in a soul group that was enslaved at the time does not mean that that's what your yes is about at all. Okay, that's an overlay on top of the true yes. The yes that you have with the Pachamama is for you to come and contribute into this reality, okay? For you, your agenda, okay? Your essence agenda coming to manifest in reality. That's what that yes is about. Okay, so let me get here. All right, hold on. Okay, so Soul Schooling says, why do I feel the need to release tears when I listen to this? They are not happy or sad per se, just there to release. Yes. So it's because I'm acknowledging something, right? And when something that has been, longing to become acknowledged within us, all of a sudden does, it's like this, it's like a release. It's a relief. Yeah. And with this lack of acknowledgement, there's emotions that we don't know about that are in there. So with that release, the emotions move. And it's great that you don't have a story at all about those emotions, because then you can let them just be pure emotion and let it move. And when that moves, it's also removing the interferences that were anchored into that emotional aspect. So they could be programs, that could be implants, that could be entities. As your energy move, as your life force and your emotions move, all of that stuff that's attached to those layers move with it. So it's a really great thing. That means that you're sensitive and you pay attention, which is a gift, guys. It's a gift. It's really, all of humanity is meant to be like that. But in a time when being hard and tough, when the opposite things are valued, when you have that, it turns into something that's rare and a gift. All right, dear Facebook user says, hello, I have found the fourth eye. Oh, okay. Is this Ben? Hey, Ben. All right. Hello. Have found a fourth eye, the sonar imbue with it, the bone on the back of the skull. It's the occipital bone. If you have a bump on the back of your head, you have a good chance that yours is available, that's what your availability is linked to with sonar. Okay, I'm sorry if I just chopped that up a little bit. Yeah, so we do have a fourth eye in the back of the head, and it also connects you with multiverse perceptions. And those of you who have been in Lightbody for a while, many of you have already had that open up, the fourth eye open up. It's going way beyond this model right here. I think this is what's inside of the body by default on all humans, but there's way more. There's way, way, way more. So thank you for that. All right. And then we have another Facebook user says, wow, that explanation totally put the pieces together for me. The event on Jupiter woke me and I began my spiritual journey. Although I had been cracked open in 89, the journey really started in 94. I had a vision in 89 of a huge vortex opening in the sky, and I followed it. Wow. Yeah, good for you. Yeah, 94 was a huge year for me. That's when I realized I can see and experience energy. Oh, Howdy, good to hear. Okay, that's who you are. Okay, good. Yeah, I had a similar thing in 94, because that's when I discovered. All right. So I discovered yoga, but it wasn't Western kind of yoga. It was a very unique kind of yoga called Kripalu. And Kripalu at the time was all about posture flow, which was a meditation in motion. So it wasn't like the huff and puff exercise that, what most of Westerners practice as yoga. It was deeply, deeply meditative, and it was always combined with pranayama and chanting and stuff like this. So it was really a methodology of full body prayer. And that's what I discovered in 94. And that completely launched me into who I really was. Because up until then I was lost. I had no idea who I was. And no matter what, I wasn't going to be happy. So that was a big year for me too. All right, dear soul schooling says I get tingles, and that spot is tender there. I never knew that was what it was. I've lived to hear more. I'd love to hear more. All right, little typo. So Soul School, I think, is talking about the fourth eye opening that dear brother Benjamin was sharing. Okay, so maybe you guys can chat about that. Whew. All right, so 2021. All right, I have to get to this about the bootstraps, right? So what I'm talking about, pull up your bootstraps because the ride is far from over, is that, we have our personal reversals that we wake up to, and they're happening. And as we have it happen and we're able to integrate with it and let it happen and unfold for us, this is great because it's going to speed up. All right. For many of us, it already has sped up, but if you're depending on where you are in the spectrum of this, as those reversals reveal and you wake up to it and are able to integrate it step by step, the reversals will happen quicker. And then eventually you'll be able to recognize the reversal in the moment that it happens. And then that's when you're awoke out of the 4D field. And this is maybe what people mean when they talk about ascending to 4D. Okay. You are now an empowered sovereign being on the fourth dimensional level at that point. Okay. But it's also happening in 2021. It's happening full on a collective level. And that means the people who are rigid in their thinking, they really believe that something's so, no matter what it is that you believe in, it's going to get challenged. And it's not a gentle challenge. It's a train wreck kind of challenge. That's the energy of 2021. For those of us who have been on this path of liberation and sovereignty, this is probably going to be not a train wreck year, but a liberation year where we feel like we finally get to emerge as our true self into the world. Okay, so all this work that you guys have been doing, this is where it pays off. This is where you get to benefit. You can really see the benefit of all that work. Now, of course, we've solved personal benefit, but a lot of times we still feel pretty isolated in the collective because our ideas are really outside of the program norm. I mean, even the New Age program norm, most of us don't fit into, right? Because even that is full of programming. So as the rest of humanity catches up with what we've been doing and where we're at and how we, are being liberated, it's going to be intense. And I'm feeling like, 2023 is when we are going to be on that next, where it's going to be integrated on a larger collective level, and our governments and our communities and corporations and stuff like this will reflect that change. Because remember, this change is not happening just in our heads. These powers that be were once held together because the cosmic forces were aligned with that. But now the cosmic forces are not aligned with that. It's completely different, like with the mystery school teachings. Okay. So because it's not supported on those levels, it has no foundation to rest upon. The only thing that can keep that stuff perpetuated is us buying into those 4D constructs, us buying in and anchoring in to a particular viewpoint and refusing to change it. That's the only power they have. They are not supported up here anymore. They are not supported down here anymore. Okay, so this change is inevitable. If it's going to go out with a whimper or a bang, I think we're all starting to get a clue what that's going to be like, right? It all depends. Some places where it's really anchored in dark, like New York, okay, that's where it's super intense. That's likely to be more of a bang. Those of us who are maybe out here in the mountains and it's intense, but not really, you know what I mean? It's maybe a little bit more of a whimper. All right. So there's these, like I was saying, those anchor points to those collective grids and those, inverted realities, they're going to get lifted. And then all of a sudden, certain thoughts and attitudes will just be magically gone because there's no artificial consciousness grid holding it in place anymore. Okay. So some places are much more darker and anchored in that reversal reality than other places. I would say maybe the place to be if you just want it to be a smooth ride altogether is be out in the desert. Where the predominant frequency of the ocean is sunlight. Now it's intense. Not for everybody, but I'm saying if you want it to be like super, super seamless, live in the desert for a while. But a lot of us don't have that kind of option. We have our life, we have our families, we have our our places that we want to be. That's not in the desert. So I'm not saying that you need to do that. I'm just making the point of the kind of ocean that you're in is going to really reflect in the intensities. So out east, it's a lot more intense than out west. I'm also seeing cities of light starting to rise in the collective. And the first city of light that I see arising is, well, I won't say the exact city, but I'll give the location. It's somewhere near or in British Columbia. So the cities of light are starting to emerge out of these collective grids, and they're here. They're not going to go anywhere because the bigger energy is in support of that emergence. Okay. So you're not alone. We are all in this together. This collective, ocean that we're in is moving, is transitioning, is going someplace. It's just, when you get challenged, your belief systems get challenged. Humans need to really, work at letting that go. And people are talking about perhaps disclosure will happen this year. And what I'm here to tell you, disclosure has already happened. And what the difference is our value systems are going to change. It's not going to be when our government says it, therefore I'm going to believe it anymore. It's not going to be like that. It's more of, oh, my neighbor had this experience with the Sasquatch. It totally changed their life. That is how it's going to be. It's a grassroots disclosure. It is not going to be the powers that be kind of disclosure. If you get a disclosure coming from them, there's an agenda behind it, right? Remember the reversals. So grassroots disclosure is where it's at right now. And it's been happening for years. Absolutely. I mean, years. I mean, there's hundreds and, well, actually there's thousands of people that have had firsthand experiences with Deva and fairy realms, firsthand experiences with Sasquatch, with ETs, with inner earth beings, with orb beings. I mean, come on now, right? And we're not crazy. We know we're not crazy. We sound crazy to people who are in the program, but when we come across each other, we just validate each other and back each other up and what's going on and what's happening, right? So the more that happens on a grassroots personal level, the more widespread the acceptance of disclosure is going to be, okay? More people believe that there's life out in the galaxy than not, okay? So this idea that the government is in charge of how we think about things, that is an idea that's going out the window. It's no longer going to be so. Why? Because we're no longer having this inform us of what our reality is. It's now this. Okay, because our DNA is changing. It's changing because of the sun. It's changing because of the planets. You know, it's changing because of our earth is changing. It's changing because our environment is changing. So as that change, that means more of our bandwidth of who we are can be in our body and can be expressed. And that is exactly what's happening. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, darlings, I'm going to come through, read the rest of the comments here, and then I'm going to wrap it up. I totally went over. I apologize for that. I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. All right, finally, I can see the tape. All right, Hodai says, I feel like I am at the convergent point that reveals of the reversals, some confusion personally, yet able to see all the points of view as truth. Interesting point to be in. Awareness of it certainly helps. Yes, thank you, darling, for that. I do appreciate living in the country more and more. Oh, this is dear Tammy, because she lives in rural Kansas. And then dear Georgette says, good idea. Maybe I will go live in red dirt of Uluru. Aha. Now that's a major PowerPoint also. So there was a reversed encodement that was anchored in that PowerPoint of Uluru, and it's been lifted. So and the indigenous have felt it. I mean, there's lots of beings have felt that and have celebrated the setting straight of that reversal. Soul Schooling says, I think I've been experiencing grassroots exposure late at night when the lights go down in my home. I can see the elementals and energy afoot. It just is more and more. My fear fades. That's awesome. I have fave bits are when you go over. Awesome. Yeah, I just want to complete the whole thing. I don't want to leave you guys hanging with that. But yeah, so the actually schooling, soul schooling is touching on an important point, because the more the collective can allow something to be a reality, the easier it is for other people to see it. Right? So how many of you guys have been in an event where you see clearly the UFO? You see it clear as day, but maybe only 3 other people see it. No one else sees it, right? Now imagine if a quarter of that group, the quarter of that stadium or that large group actually saw it, acknowledged it. That is what that resonance, because we're in an ocean of energy, will now make it easier for others, for it to be revealed to the others that you're with. That's the beauty and the gold of the grassroots movement. People are seeing it for themselves. They're not being told by something that they consider an authority. Because remember, you are the one in charge. This is your party. You are here because you said yes with the Pachamama. You guys have agreed to this party, and there is a beautiful baseline from which you are to grow your dreams from. And you right? All right, darlings. This has been fun. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to learn more about what we do at the Academy, lightbody.com, we have a few more openings coming up for the Dreamtime Healing Project and the Healer Acceleration Lab. If you want to check that out, go ahead and visit that site, or you can book a free consult with me, and we can just talk about what you want to talk about. Maybe if some of these programs are right for you in helping unwind intuitive blind spots, I am totally down for that. and you can book those calls with Lori. So email wecare@lightbody.com, and she will get you in with me or one of the other facilitators. As you guys, I'm curious how you guys are enjoying Ashlyn on Tuesday. I think she's doing a splendid job with the bridging the inner world stuff. So yeah, let me know about that too. I'll go ahead and put that email in the comments so you can follow up with Lori if that's something that you want to do. All right, guys, love you lots. Mwah, mwah. We'll see you next time. Woohoo! Bye.